What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's Murphy55 coming to you with another episode of The Northern, and we are just beginning the month of May here, which means we are deep into NBA playoff season. We've got 8 teams remaining. So the main thing we're going to talk about today is getting into those 4 remaining series in the Eastern and Western Conference, getting some predictions, who we think is going to win, what we've seen so far, if we've been able to catch any of those games. And then we're also going to sprinkle in a little bit of NFL talk, NFL draft talk, to end off the podcast too, since there's been some big news around the league, and we all are kind of connected through this Madden community. So obviously we've got an interest in who our teams have drafted and how our teams are setting up for the future. But I'm going to start off by introducing the panel here. We got my guy Craigy58 making a return appearance on the Northern here. Craigy, appreciate you coming through, man. I know you had a busy day at work, but thank you so much for making the time.
I appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, of course, man. And I feel like every time I talk to Craigy, I learn something new about him, which is incredible. Which also makes me realize I should probably be a better listener. So, Craigy, I'm excited to hear your takes today, man, and thank you again for being on here. And representing, so we have a diverse crowd here from different countries. So we got Craigy representing the UK, and then representing Mexico by way of Fresno, California is my guy, that dude for Holes, aka Beans. Beans, how are you doing today, my guy? I appreciate you coming through for the first time.
Hey, Cinco de Drinko, you can't complain, man. It's a beautiful day. It's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of people are calling out tomorrow, so it's basically Friday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm thankful for you having me on. I never thought I would get the opportunity to be on this thing.
Bro, of course.
I thought the draft started. I mean, you got a lot of great people on here, dude. So, when you started getting all these legends on here, I'm just like, I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance anymore.
Bro,
I should have started in the beginning, but hey, you give me the opportunity. I'm welcome to be here, and I'm can't wait.
Of course, man. No, I'm the one who's privileged here, and like I said, guys, I know it's a big ask. So, you guys all have your own stuff going on, your own streams, your own jobs. That life is busy in general. So I do appreciate anytime someone comes on here, and hopefully, Beans. I know you were telling me in Discord that your main thing is baseball, and we're definitely going to be getting into more baseball talk down the road. Craigy's shaking his head here. He's a big baseball guy.
He's a baseball fan.
Yeah.
Man.
So we'll definitely have you on here for another MLB version of the Northern too at some point. For sure. And we got another young gentleman, MJS. I've been calling him MJs for damn near a year, and we finally found out that MJS is the proper moniker. So, and I like it. I like the branding. I like the logo that I put up on the thumbnail. MJs, how are you doing today, my guy? Appreciate you coming through.
Doing good. Thank you for having me. It's going to be a fun time.
Absolutely, my dude. We got to hear some sports takes from you, and I'm excited to hear your takes on what you've seen from around the NBA, and we'll get right into it, boys, with the first topic here. So let me lock my Discord windows in place. That would be good. All right, first thing I want to talk about here, and you guys might not be familiar with it, but I had to bring up the Raptors one last time, and we will never talk about them in this playoff hunt again. It was a good series. The Raptors were down 3-0. It looked like it was going to be a runaway. They ended up, bringing the series back to 3-2, and eventually lost in Game 6. The situation here, the Siakam versus Embiid thing that I'm bringing up, even if you didn't see it, I'll kind of set the tone here. So, final minute of Game 6, Raptors are down by 30. Like it's over. The series is over. It's in Toronto. And Joel Embiid does his infamous celebration where he does, spreads his wings and kind of pretends that he's a plane or whatever. The same thing he did when we had Kawhi back in the day when we ended up winning our championship and beating them in that series. The crowd was booing like crazy. Siakam goes down, dribbles for a layup and conveniently absolutely jabs Embiid in the eye with his elbow. And at the time, the Raptors commentator Jack Armstrong, I saw he had to issue an apology because he said when Embiid was celebrating, he's like, "This is Bush League," and then when the foul happened, he's like, "Well, you get what you deserve." Like he was, he had hurt a couple of not hurt, but he had played a very physical brand of basketball. A couple of our Raptors got injured directly in confrontation with him. But what we didn't realize at the time was that Siakam had actually broken his orbital bone, and I believe Embiid has missed the first 2 games of round 2 as a result of this injury, in addition to the thumb injury he already has. So, hard foul. It was called a flagrant foul. Obviously, suspension doesn't matter because the Raps are out of it. But, what do you think? Do you think there could be any kind of punishment coming in for Siakam? Do you think it's fair game after a hard-fought playoff series to kind of go after a guy like that? Or do you think there's no place in basketball for, a physical confrontation like that to happen? We'll start with Craigy here and get his thoughts.
Well, am I mad that he did it as a Heat fan who's currently not biasly thinking about the series that we're involved in?
Facts.
No. But that's besides the point. And that, in all seriousness, should he have done it? No. Was Embiid being a bit of a dick by celebrating while up 30? Yes. But I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Embiid misses the entire series.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Siakam missed the first couple games of next season.
Yeah, I could see it. It's a weird thing that didn't seem like that big of an issue. It's like, oh yeah, he's got a cut on his eye. You know, guys get elbowed in the face going for rebounds all the time. It's not a big deal in the NBA. You know, that's why you have the guys with the rag out there cleaning it up. But yeah, you know, when you realize that it's actually something more serious that's going to require surgery and make him miss significant time in really important games. And the Sixers are a win now team. Like, they've obviously stockpiled talent to win this year. So yeah, that definitely has some bigger implications than I had expected. And obviously the Heat taking care of business. They're up 2-0. We'll talk about that series in a second and get your take on that, Craigie. But Beans, what do you think about that? Do you think a hard offensive foul is deserved if a guy's being a bit of a dick, if the crowd is kind of begging for it? Crowd was booing the hell out of Embiid, and then they were cheering after the... Again, the crowd was cheering. I don't think they knew that he had a broken orbital bone. I thought they just knew that he got popped in the mouth, you know? What's your take, Beans?
See. So I'm gonna be honest, and like I might seem a little bit biased, but one of the worst players. I mean, he's good, but I hate him myself, and I tell Dally all the time. I hate Draymond Green, and this is like another comparison in my sense.
Yeah.
Embiid likes to play really, really aggressive, and I don't get mad. You know, I expect defenders and caliber, you know, players like that to be really aggressive. But you know, the whole cockiness, you know, like. It only goes so far, and you're gonna get, you know, what you deserve at the end of the day. Do I feel Siakam did it on purpose? Probably not. Was it a little aggressive? Yes, of course. And I feel like I don't see a suspension in the near future, but I see possibly a fine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we just saw recently. I can't remember who it was. It was for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Was it John Morant or?
No,
Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks. Brooks. He dude fractured his shoulder or whatever, and I mean
his elbow. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, his elbow or whatever. And luckily, I mean, it didn't pop out. I mean, because it would have been even worse. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, the league's so soft nowadays, man. It's like, you know, it's kind of like, but it's not football either, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point in basketball where how far is too far, you know? I mean, yeah, be aggressive, but, you know, some of these guys, they know what they're doing. They know who the best players are, you know, so.
Absolutely.
That's just my take.
For sure.
And that's my take, you know? I mean, Siakam, yeah, I get it. You're down. You know, and Embiid's a great player. Most likely could be possibly MVP of the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it, but then again, you got to understand, dude, like, there's a time where, you know, it's like, don't be overly aggressive. You know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah. And it's not like we benefit from this at all. Like, it was very clear. We were in the dying seconds of our season. You know, it was kind of an unfortunate thing because, you know, with about 4 minutes left, when the starters got pulled and the Raptors kind of mailed it in, they said, okay, yeah, we're down 30, we're done. You know, they got kind of a standing ovation from the crowd. Like, down 30, I mean, the Sixers in Game 5 were getting booed. Fans were leaving in the third quarter when the Raptors were flooding them in Game 5. You know, they were booing their own team winning in a playoff series. Like, I'd never seen that before. Like, Philly is a tough place to play, man. Even when you're up big and on the verge of doing something special, the fans are hard on you. Whereas the Raptors were getting shelled. The season was over. We had no chance of winning, and they were cheering for the Raptors for about 4 minutes before this whole Embiid thing happened. He kind of tried to shut the crowd up. So, you know, emotions were definitely running high at the time. So, you know, I wouldn't put too much judgment on anybody in this situation. From what I know as well, like, Embiid and Siakam are actually boys. They kind of embraced after the game, and I think Embiid was kind of like whispering in his ear that it was actually more serious than maybe they thought. I thought, I was like, oh, look at Embiid, he's so soft. He's going off to the sidelines to get his cut man to work on it. But obviously, like, I've never had a fractured orbital bone. I don't want to experience that. So, you know, given that, the fact that, you know, he hasn't said anything negative about it in the press, I think it was kind of a classy move by Embiid. Hopefully he does get back. I mean, missing, you know, the final 8 teams left in the NBA, to miss out on an MVP caliber talent being in the playoffs, that kind of sucks for the league. And, without some of the big names like LeBron being in the playoffs this year, I think we need to have as many stars as possible to make these games kind of intriguing. MJs, what are your thoughts on delivering a hard foul? Do you think there should be any punishment for or MJS, sorry, for Siakam? Do you think it was fair game? Do you think there's any time where like physicality like that is acceptable in the NBA or not really? What's your thought?
Well, not really. I think you should always play clean or as clean as you can play. But like, if you're gonna celebrate not at the end of the game, you kind of deserve it in a way. Embiid is asking for it because he knows Siakam's gonna react if you're gonna celebrate before the end of the game.
Yeah, facts. I agree with that. It's kind of like, given the nature of the situation in the game and the vibes of the whole crowd in the stadium and how upset they were with Embiid doing his stupid airplane thing. And, I'm not a guy who's like, oh, players can't celebrate, players can't do this and that. There's nothing wrong with what he did. It just, obviously the fans didn't like it. It's kind of like the foul by Siakam kind of reminds me of like, when Terrell Owens is standing on a logo at midfield, after a touchdown or something like that, and a player comes and just cleans him off of it. Like, you kind of do it not because it's a football thing, but because it's a thing for your fan base and standing up for your fan base. So he gets a blessing from me. I think if he could take it back, he probably would, but I don't think he's going to lose any sleep over it. And as far as I'm concerned, for Jack Armstrong, the Raptors commentator who, issued an apology, he obviously works for a big, telecom company. You can't have your announcers being absolute goons. But I don't even think an apology was necessary because he didn't know about the extent of the injury. If he had known it was an injury, he would have never said that. It just looked like a hard foul, and I think it was passable at best. But enough about the drama here. We will get to some more drama, some more fines and stuff like that later on in the podcast. But let's talk about this series between the Heat and the 76ers. And what better guy to start with than Craigy, who is a self-proclaimed Heat fan. What are your thoughts? Have you been able to catch the game so far? And how are the Heat looking so far?
I mean, yesterday was the most typical Heat game I've ever watched in my entire life, where we play really well and then create a massive lead, and then all of a sudden it's like a 3-point game again, and then we create a massive lead, and then a 3-point game again, and then we create a massive lead. And luckily we ended, we cleaned up the game how we should have done towards the end of the game, which was good. But so far, I'm not mad about it. James Harden isn't beating us, which isn't a surprise. He always fumbles off. So
seriously,
I'm like, without it, even with Embiid, I still like our chances if he plays games 3 and 4. If he doesn't play game 3, I don't think he plays game 4. I feel like, well, if he doesn't play game 3 and the Sixers don't win game 3, I don't think he plays game 4.
Which, I mean, that's kind of like, it almost seems like a cop-out at that point, too. Like, because then 76ers fans can fall back on the MVP wasn't playing. We lost in 4 games. But bottom line, like, there's been a lot of injuries in the playoffs this year. Like, Devin Booker's missed games. Like, Scotty Barnes was missing games for the Raptors. Fred VanVleet was missing games. Like, it's kind of like the NBA is a different sport in its own right. It's a little bit more physical, and you got to kind of fight through those crazy bits of adversity. I mean, the Warriors have had to deal with that in the past, like with some of their big guys going down for the playoffs. Everybody has to deal with it. So, I'm glad to see the Heat taking care of business so far. I'm personally rooting for the Heat because of Kyle Lowry, who was, in my opinion, the greatest Raptor of all time. I'm not saying he's even a Hall of Famer, but just like what he meant to the franchise in his time here, how he turned around his career from being a guy in Houston who was kind of like, kind of considered like a locker room cancer, and to becoming, the leader of our team and bringing us a championship. I'm obviously rooting for my guy Kyle Lowry. I mean, Serge Ibaka's in the playoffs too, but he was a lesser part of that Raptors team. Beans, what are your thoughts on the Heat Sixers here? Do you think it's going to be done in 4, or do you think the 76ers have a chance to battle back here?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't really think the Sixers have a chance. I mean, Embiid is definitely one of the MVP candidates. I mean, he comes back game 3. They might win one, take away from the Heat, but I mean, I just don't see the Sixers. I mean, James Harden, I mean, you see him every year in playoffs, man. He just doesn't do shit. I hate to say it. I mean,
seriously,
right now he needs to be the one to step up the team, and he's not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got DeAndre Jordan, and you know that ain't much no more.
No.
He's kind of a nobody anymore. I mean, the Heat
Mhm.
bench. I mean, Tyler Herro's actually playing more minutes now, but with him coming off the bench, he's just tearing it up, and it
Thanks.
shows. And that's just helping my stock for my card collection. So shout out to
Hey,
him.
let's
But
go. Are you heavily invested in Tyler Harrow?
I started getting it. So I never got big into basketball, more
Yeah.
baseball, but I slowly started investing. I got a lot of John Morants, and then a couple of Mellows, and then I'm gonna start working my way to maybe Luca and some
Yeah.
other young rookies. Tyler Hero is one is really good too. So
Facts, man. And was he was
I don't
he
want to. What's
he
up?
was a sixth man for them, right? Like he's not a starter for them, but he comes in and he's like instant
Yeah,
offense off
that's
the
the thing
bench.
is like he won. I think he won Six Man of the Year.
Yeah.
He won Six Man of the Year yesterday. It
Yeah.
was announced
So
Yeah.
I mean
yesterday or the day before, I think it was. Yeah, he won
yeah.
Six
Yeah.
Man
I
of the Year.
Well
mean
deserved. Yeah.
dude's been tearing it up, and I mean got to give him props. You know. So
For
like I
sure.
said, I could see the Sixers maybe taking one from them,
Yeah.
but I mean it's gonna be really hard. I mean the Heat, they look like they're gonna be the toughest. Um, Going in against the Celtics and Milwaukee, I think Celtics take that game. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that a little more
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
on. But yeah, go
Facts.
ahead. That's my
Yeah,
take.
yeah. No, I think it's definitely been a good showing for the Heat, and we talked about this on last week's podcast with Mr. Sharman Clean and some of the other guys that were on here. That the Heat are kind of underdogs. Like they're the number one seed in the East. Nobody was talking about them being the team to get out of the East, other than maybe Craigy and the Heat fans who've seen them throughout the season. But like everyone's like, oh yeah, man, it's definitely going to be the Sixers. It's definitely going to be the Celtics are on fire right now. The Bucks have the reigning MVP and they won it just last year. But nobody was looking at the Heat. But really, they've got probably one of the best coaches in the league right now in Spoelstra. They've got a lot of veterans and really also a good young core as well. Like they got like all stars at multiple positions. So I think don't sleep on the Heat here. And I will say if the Sixers do go down 3-0, it is a tough thing to come back from. I was crushed after the Game 3 loss when the Sixers went up 3-0 on the Raptors. We did have a glimmer of hope after it was 3-2, but it's really tough to win 4 straight. Unless you're front running like the Heat are right now. Especially again, every team in the playoffs is good at this point. MJS, what do you think about this Heat Sixers series? Who do you think takes it? What are your predictions for the rest of the series?
I mean, if Embiid doesn't come back, then Heat in 4. I don't see Harden doing anything in the series if Embiid does not come back. Yeah, it sucks in the playoffs. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Do you think if Embiid does come back and they're able to steal a game, because these 2 games were in Miami, so the next 2 will be in Philly. Do you think if Embiid comes back, and I could see him come back to play in front of a home crowd, if they're able to even it up 2-2, do you think that changes things at all for the series outcome?
If they even it up 2-2, I think the Sixers have a chance to force a game, maybe Game 7. But I still don't see them taking the series.
Yeah, facts. I think health has been a good thing for the Heat so far. They're relatively healthy. Got good coaching. A good depth as well too. Like beyond obviously, like if you have a guy who's all-star caliber coming off your bench, that bodes well for you. The Sixers are really top heavy. Like their starters pull a lot of the weight. Their bench is not really up to the task, and we're seeing that now without their star player. Like they just don't have the depth to weather a blow. And we'll talk about James Harden one more time here. I was always big time James Harden's a Hall of Fame. James Harden is a Hall of Fame player. He's done a lot. He is going to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But man, even back in the NCAA tournament, I remember watching him for ASU or for Arizona State, and he put up a stinker, man. He was like one of the best college players, but come tournament time, he was terrible. Like he just doesn't seem to have that clutch gene. Obviously he's had to go up against great teams that have knocked him out of the playoffs in the past, but this is kind of the time for him to step up. And I've been following, W's Twitter, obviously as a 76ers fan, and I've been seeing him put up some, this is the night that Harden goes off for 60. I don't think we're going to see it, man. I don't think we're going to see Harden go off for 30, to be honest. I think he is what he is, and he's happy to be a facilitator, distributor now. I don't think he wants to be the man anymore. He's lost that killer instinct, if he ever even had it in the first place. But moving on, guys, to the next topic here. Probably the more balanced series in the Eastern Conference this time around. Celtics versus Bucks, 2 teams that I look at as being really physical, really exciting young superstars on the teams. Bucks have done obviously coming off a championship. They're looking to get right back there again. Celtics though, like Tatum's emerging. They've got a super deep roster, play good defense. Craigie, what are your thoughts on this series? It's tied one game apiece right now. Thoughts on this series? Who do you think's gonna win?
I mean, watching it's great. I'm like slightly torn because I actually quite like the Celtics purely because of most of the players on the team. However, my brother is a Celtics supporter and he's the most annoying human being ever. So
that just goes for all Boston sports fans are the most annoying. I swear to God, I don't know what it is, man. Red Sox fans, Celtics fans, Patriots fans, bro.
He's a self-proclaimed Boston fan. Yeah. He supports the Patriots, everything. So yes, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
He's just out of them all. He's the biggest Celtics fan, and he is just. I'll be receiving text messages at 2 a.m. about him just saying that they're the best team in the league, but then...
Oh, man.
I'm like, if the Heat aren't going to win it, I'm not mad if the Celtics win it.
Yeah.
Low-key, I want to see my brother thrive, but at the same time, also fuck you. So I don't really mind.
Facts. And do you think, how many games do you think this series goes? Does this series go all 7?
6 or 7. 6 or 7. It's like... If... I'm going to say 7. I would expect the Celtics to split, just like the Bucks did in Milwaukee over the next 2 games. And I think the Celtics will take it in 7. I don't know if people have noticed. For the most part, they've done a really good job at shutting. They kept Giannis pretty quiet over the first 2 games. If they keep doing that, then they just got to play. I think offensively they just have to be much better. They weren't good offensively in the first game, whereas the second game they were hitting everything. Yeah.
And I remember Giannis. I obviously know from his games against the Raptors, and I've seen him in person a couple times, and he really does. When you see him on the court, even when I'm up in my crappy cheap seats, he looks different. He really does look imposing down there. And he filled out, man. From when he was a rookie and he was just probably 110 pounds at 7 feet tall. He's really filled out. And last year in the finals, he really was dominant. When he, I think it was they won in 6, I think, in the finals. And I was watching Game 6. I had a buddy come over for that. And man, it's just Giannis when he's on is unstoppable. If he could just add a 3-point game, a really consistent 3-point shot. He'd be unguardable. He'd be the best player in the league for the next 10 years with his physical, just gifts that he has. But easier said than done. It's hard. A lot more in the mechanics for a tall guy. It's a lot harder when you have arms and a wingspan that long to be a good, consistent shooter than it is for a point guard. But man, I hope it goes 7 games because it's kind of spoiling us with a lot of good sports content. I hope every series goes 7 games, except for your Heat. Obviously, I want them to win in 4. Beans, what are your thoughts on the Celtics Bucks series here? Where do you see it going?
To be honest, right now, Celtics to me on paper they look phenomenal. Jaylen Brown, Tatum's looking good, Horford, and I think they get Marcus Smart back Game 3, so that's a huge plus. Not having Marcus Smart, he's a great player. He's very aggressive. I could see it going 6 or 7. I think Celtics take it in 6 if Smart comes back. Giannis, he's a demon, man. Dude is huge. He's athletic for a big man.
Yeah.
I feel like he needs some help on his side of the ball, but he could do it by himself. We saw LeBron do it for a little bit. There's LeBron haters. I used to hate LeBron. I got to give it to him. He's a great player.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. You guys can talk about LeBron. We're not even going to get into the topic of who's the best ever. Yeah. I hate talking about it. Yeah. 2 different eras.
Yes, but, exactly.
Yeah, I see the Celtics winning in 6, if not 7 for sure. Sorry, Giannis. You won last year, man. But
man, we got to spread the love. We can't be having dynasties here. Yeah. There's coming up. Oh, beautiful. Now the trolls come out of the woodwork. I'm gonna
tell you, I'm a Laker fan.
You can't. Yeah. First thing I gotta tell you, can't come on to a Northern podcast and mention LeBron's name. It just brings people out of the woodwork, man. The nastiest people.
Yeah, it happens. But dude, I'm an honest fan, man. When it comes to any sport. Like the Celtics, rivals of the Lakers, battle of titles.
Yeah.
You know what? Celtics got a good team, man. I mean, it sucks to not see my Lakers in the playoffs. It's crazy to not see LeBron. And of course, you got all the haters. Oh my God, LeBron isn't this and blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, dude. I mean, I get it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like when the Dodgers play the Giants. You know, I get all the hate, but hey, the
Yeah.
Dodgers got a great team, man. If they deserve to win, they deserve to win. I mean, they got
Yeah.
the best team on paper.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, and when you can, factor in guys who are gamers and live up to their potential.
yeah,
Yeah, the league is based around super teams at this point.
yeah. It's just,
Yeah, we won't get into LeBron fully, but let me just say that there's a few very strongly opinionated people in my chat who hate LeBron. I used to hate LeBron too because the Raptors could never get past. First the Heat, then the Cavs again. They could never get past LeBron to make it to an Eastern Conference Finals for the whole Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan years. It took him going to the Western Conference and us getting Kawhi Leonard to get past that hump. So we never. It's not like we conquered LeBron and made it to our finals and won our championship. LeBron had to leave for us to win, and I truly believe that if LeBron stayed in the East, we wouldn't have our championship banner hanging up, in the Scotiabank Arena. So, he won me over because LeBron he is great at what he does. Everybody in the NBA would love to play with LeBron. He's gotten, he's done great things for the game of basketball, and he's done the best job possible of living up to the ridiculous amount of, Jordan comparisons, like more so than any other player. Like, I think if you had to say, how can you live up to Jordan-esque hype, LeBron probably did the best job humanly possible. But I'll leave it at that for now. MJs, what do you think about this Celtics-Bucks series, man? Who are you pulling for, and how many games do you think it takes for your team to get it done?
Well, neither of my teams are in the series, so
Yeah.
I could care less. But
Love it.
I see the Bucks in 7.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know if K-Mid is still injured or not, but if he is, then that is one big piece that they are missing right now. And once he comes back, if he does, I don't know his injury status,
Yeah.
will be better than what they are.
So you think they're just getting fully healthy is the one thing holding the Bucks back from winning in 7 at this point? Like, do you I mean, because Marcus Smart making a comeback too, as Beans mentioned earlier, like I think he's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Like, as a guy who is like
He
a
won
career,
Defensive Player of the Year.
He won Defensive Player of the Year. Like for a guy who really is kind of like Patrick Beverley on steroids, I guess. Like I've seen Marcus Smart for years. Nobody likes Patrick Beverley. Even his own teammates don't like Patrick Beverley. But like, you know what I mean? Like, he's the ultimate pest. I feel like Marcus Smart's like the really get under your skin guy. I watched Marcus Smart lead a team of literally like the third stringers on Boston take my Raptors into overtime like a week before the playoffs. Like, I know how good he is. He's a gamer. He's kind of like to be able to be in the league for this many years and only put up like 8 or 9 points a game on his career and on terrible percentages. Like obviously you got to be a really damn good defender to stick around that long. Not a lot of guys like that who can make a career off defense anymore in such a high scoring league. We used to have like the Shane Battiers, guys like that, like Bruce Bowens.
Out the Battier, what a legend!
Yeah, man. like you don't see a lot of those guys who just make money and get signed to contracts forever, like off defense alone. But Smart is definitely one of those guys. He's worth every penny, I think.
I mean, Smart is like he's a god form of Shane Battier. He plays amazing defense and can shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. That's the
what
thing.
Shane Battier does.
It's like he's good enough at shooting. Like his percentages are never elite. Like they've never been elite. But at the same time, he's good enough that you can't leave him unguarded, so you can still space the floor. It's like the one time you don't cover Marcus Smart, he just drains the 3.
That's when he hits 6 or 7 from 3.
Exactly.
And you're like, what have we just done?
Exactly, and he can be streaky, and I think his stats kind of show up in games when his team. Yeah, I think he shows up in games when his team needs him to. When Tatum and Brown are both going off for 30 plus, you don't need him to put up points. But when those guys are struggling, that's when Smart comes through and earns his paycheck. So I think if I'm not mistaken here, we were 2-1 in favor of the Celtics winning this series, and MJ's came in and took the defending champion Bucks. So a little bit of differing opinions. That's what we like to see on the podcast. And boys, let's
like your chat said, Heavy Debbie. I just saw. That's
Let's
another
see.
thing. Middleton being out, and he's not supposed to come back either. And I think Middleton's is definitely one of the key players in the Bucks offense.
For sure.
And not having him is definitely tough. So
Middleton was great, and he's aging too, man. Like Middleton's been good for a long
Yeah.
time, but he was good on a bad team for a long time. And then obviously when Giannis became a star and they were able to keep him around, he was great last year. Like good 3-point shooter, good veteran leadership. So to be missing him, he's not an all-star anymore, but he's still like a really damn good player. So yeah, definitely a huge part of the team, as Heavy Devy's saying there. For sure. So like I said, like every team is dealing with injuries. There's very few teams that are left. You know, you play an 82-game season, and then this is like a whole other, third of a season tacked onto that. If you make a deep playoff run, you'd be hard pressed to find a fully healthy team on any given year. And if you are, then you're fucking blessed. So let's just say that. But boys, hopping over from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference here. So let's talk about this Suns Mavericks series, and I believe this series is 1-1 split as well.
It's 2-0.
2-0 for the Suns. Okay, and I saw that Jason Kidd came out the other day and said, we're not going to be able to win this series if it's just Luka. Like they're going to need other guys to step up in this series. Like it's very rare, unless, like you said, unless it's LeBron, you really. LeBron against the Spurs, you can't really carry a team to a championship or even to a conference championship without having at least 2 or 3 other guys step up. Craigie, what are your thoughts on this series? Do you think the Suns kind of just wipe the floor with the Mavs? Give me your take on this.
I think the Mavs probably get 1 at home. And even if they get 2, the Suns will... The Pelicans won 2 against them, even though Denver couldn't play. The Pelicans won 2 against them. The Mavs can easily win 2 games, but I see the Suns wipe the floor of them. I honestly, the Suns, I thought we were going to have the easiest road to the Western Conference Finals either way, whether they play the Jazz or the Mavs. I kind of expected the same thing. Even though the Jazz, overall, in my opinion, are a better team than the Mavs are, obviously.
Yeah. Doncic is the kind of the separating factor,
Well, that's the interesting thing is like that's what most people think, but they beat the Jazz for the most part without Luka, and the thing is that hasn't translated to this series in the slightest. I also just think, except for, in my opinion, the Warriors and sort of the Celtics, the Suns are the best overall balanced team in the league. So I think the Suns easily win this series, no matter if the Mavs get 1 or 2 at home.
For sure, and the Suns were in the finals last year too. Like it was kind of a surprise finals last year. Like it's so weird not seeing LeBron be in a finals like after making 10 appearances, and then you have Giannis take that stride to become possibly the perennial MVP candidate every year. He will be top 10 in the voting for the next 7-8 years, whatever. And then this Suns team that kind of came out of nowhere. I honestly, and I will eat my words here, but I really thought that the Suns were kind of a perfect scenario, like miracle type team. But now I look at their roster, I'm like, damn, they got Ayton, they got a young core. Booker's taken strides. Chris Paul has found rekindled his passion for the game. Like Chris Paul, I didn't think he'd still be playing at this point. I thought that when he got traded to the Suns, I thought he was going to want out and maybe play a year and then retire. I didn't think he would have the heart to. And then Chris Paul is I think he's one guy in the NBA from that. I don't know if he was drafted in 04, 05, just after the LeBron 05. So he's one guy that I would love to see get a championship. I think he deserves it. He missed out on every super team. Everyone was like, it's going to be LeBron and CP3. He's missed out on every super team. He's never had a chance. So
the thing is about him getting traded to the Suns. He was in. I think he might have even got a first place vote. He definitely was high up in the voting for MVP the year that he was at the Thunder. He had an unbelievable year. Everyone was he had a hella mediocre year his last year at the Rockets. Everyone was like, this might be him slowly falling off the cliff. And then he got traded to a shit team. The Thunder are still an awful team.
Facts.
And he had an unbelievable season. I think the Thunder even won a playoff. They might have won a playoff series, or they took someone to 7 games. One of the two.
There was a very sparse roster. There was not any talent around him when he was in OKC,
except,
really.
Shea Alexander, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Gilgeous-Alexander, the Canadian.
He's great. But apart from that, I don't know anyone else on that team.
Facts, exactly.
So I was when I found out he went to the Suns, I was like, this because I love Chris Paul. I've always been a massive
Yeah.
Chris Paul fan. Devin Booker's my favorite player in the league. I was
Yeah.
like, this is great.
Yeah.
If Chris Paul wants to be here, this is great.
Yeah.
And I will openly admit, because I'm a massive Suns fan. Like, if I
Yeah.
wasn't a Heat fan, I'd probably be a Suns fan at this point.
Yeah.
That the Anthony Davis injury was kind of the reason why they got to the finals last year. It wasn't really, but it was at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if Anthony Davis did play, that the Suns wouldn't have beat them, but the series obviously wouldn't have been the same. But
let's not talk about it.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. Yeah, we'll get the Lakers
Yeah.
fans' take from it after, but absolutely, it's like it really took Chris Paul in the twilight years of his career really buying into being a veteran leader on a young team, and it's just like I was thinking after his year in OKC, I was thinking maybe he'd hitch his wagon to LeBron or something, sign the veteran minimum deal to go and join a super team, and he ended up finding a home in Phoenix, and they're doing some special things there. Like it's weird when you get traded to a young team, you think that it's typically it's a rebuild, but here the rebuild is ahead of schedule. So I think the Suns could be good for a real long time. Obviously, Paul's not going to play forever, but this year he's still got some juice left. And yeah, we can talk about it. Let's first of all get Beans' take on that Anthony Davis comment. So I kind of had an opinion about Anthony Davis this year that like LeBron put up incredible stats all year, and I was like, is Anthony Davis the invisible man this year? Like he was a top 5 player for when he was brand new in the league, and it's like where's he at? Like why is he not so hungry to take advantage of LeBron's last few years of his prime? I don't get it.
Honestly, man, that's just him staying healthy, dude. That's one of the main things. It sucks because if he could stay healthy, he'd be just like Giannis. I mean, you've seen him in his prime. You know how good he was, and with the Pelicans and stuff like that. And he was great. It's just catching up to him. When you get those knee injuries and stuff like that, the legs, it's never ending. And it sucks. Those tall guys, man, it's hard for them to just stay healthy, And
we saw it with Amari. It used to be the microfracture. Like, remember Amari Stoudemire used to every year microfracture surgery on his heel or whatever. Like, it's true. The human body is not meant to be 7 feet tall. It just isn't.
I mean, and you see it. I mean, with those bigger guys, they get injured. It's just the slightest thing. All that jumping. I mean, it definitely takes a toll on your body. I feel like with taller guys, I mean, no offense to them, they got blessed with height, but their legs are really thin. Their bones are really, I feel like they're fragile.
For sure.
And it's just so much easier for them to, like, as it is for a younger guy, like smaller guys, their body's like more well-balanced, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's like the differences. I mean, obviously, height's nice in basketball, but I mean, and it sucks because like a lot of these, there's not very many tall guys who can shoot threes. There's some who can. And
I mean, it's getting there. You kind of got to be now. Like, it's getting there a bit more now where it's a necessary skill set. But yeah, you're right. Like, go back 10 years, you can probably count on one hand the amount of 7-footers that can hit threes. And it's probably just Dirk, to be honest. Yeah.
Dirk, maybe Tim Duncan, but
I mean, other than that, Duncan can hit a 15-foot jumper off the glass. I don't know if I've ever seen Duncan hit a 3, but hey, who knows? Anybody can do it once. Shaq, I'm sure, has done it once. But yeah.
Back to the Dallas and Suns, topic. I really don't see. I mean, the Suns are just gonna sweep this. Maybe what's his name? Craigy was saying. I feel they might take one at home.
Yeah.
But Luka can't do it all by himself. I mean, you saw in Series 1, he had some help, but that's the only way I could see them even putting up a fight is if he could get some help from his teammates.
Yeah.
I've been watching ESPN and Skip Bayless. I'm gonna shut him up here. He's just looking at me all funny, This guy, man, he talks about Luka, and it's like, I mean, you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, it's tough. There is players who can. Luka is definitely, trying to prove himself, but he's still young. I mean, he's still got a lot of years to prove himself, and I feel like, you know how Skip is. Just talks, and
he really does.
Luka is definitely that guy.
Yeah.
If he could get a little help, I mean, like I said, they might get one, maybe two, but the way Chris Paul's playing, phenomenal. I hope he gets a ring. Yeah. It's definitely his time because I feel like after this year, I don't think he I think this might be his last year. I really do.
I mean, if he gets a ring, I mean, how many players get to actually go out on top? How many
Yeah.
players who lead the team get to go out on top? You know, you might see a role player end their career on a championship, a guy who's like, 35 and 12th man off the bench win one, but it's rare to see a guy, who's still in the spotlight and still, putting up numbers, go out on top. So that'd be kind of a storybook ending, I think, to his career. MJS, what do you think about this Suns Maverick series? Do you think it's a sweep here? Or do you think the Mavs have any fight left in them?
The broom's out. The Mavs don't have a chance. They just don't.
Yeah.
Luka is trying to do it all by himself. He can't. There's no way he can. I know he's trying very hard to, but he can't.
Yeah,
He's not Curry. He's not LeBron. He can't do it all.
Facts. And even Curry, Curry had good role players around him, good homegrown role players. He had, prime Klay Thompson, prime Draymond Green, all guys from within the organization that developed with him. The Mavs need to try really hard because Luka's 23 now? Like they need to try super hard to get a young talent on this team that will develop with him and guys that are ready to play now. And the tough part is the deeper you have these playoff runs, the worse your draft pick gets too. So it's being the guy who carries a team to mediocre success in the playoffs. And I know this as a Raptors fan who was, constantly, one or two rounds into the playoffs, but never really contenders for many years. All you do is kind of screw up your draft stock. You're almost better off. I don't want to say tanking's the way to go, but there's not a lot of franchise-changing talent left, in the 2020s in the draft. You got to really have a good scouting department, or but at the same time, it's we look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant couldn't. He was a great, could have been generational type talent if it wasn't for LeBron, but he couldn't win a championship on his own. He had to eventually go somewhere else. Hopefully for the Mavs, they put enough people around him so we don't see Luka being 27, 28 years old, being I've done everything I can. I've carried this team to, lots of playoff, victories on my own. Now I'm ready to go and have it, be part of a super team or whatever. But Luka, man, is this big talent. I think the amount of success that they've had in the playoffs, just riding his coattails, actually adds stock to his MVP rate, candidacy. I think he's opened a lot of eyes. I think Luka will win an MVP at some point in his career, and I think he'll win multiple MVPs. I think he's that special of a player. But yeah, man, so we got nobody basically on the Mavericks bandwagon here. We're all on the same boat. Suns are going to win it, whether it's in 4, whether it's in 5. I think 4 or 5 is probably the the predicted thing. I don't see this being a sweaty series. So losing a couple to the Pelicans, this is where they make up their rest by having the second round go quickly for them, I think. And moving on to our last series here, guys, in the NBA, we got the Grizzlies and Warriors. So kind of two different teams here. We got the youth of the Grizzlies versus the veteran team of the Warriors who've been there, done that. And this series is at 1-1 as well. So, Craigie, what do you think about Grizz Warriors? Who you pulling for in this one, and who do you think's gonna win?
I'm pulling for the Warriors, and I also think the Warriors are going to win this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of thought that it was going to go 7.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies are going to make both the games in Golden State super, super tough, but I'm almost positive that the Warriors are going to win both games. If the Warriors win both games in Golden State 3 and 4, then the series is done in 6.
Yeah.
6
so,
max.
Oracle Arena's got a really big home court advantage. Like when they do the whiteout, when they get everyone the white shirts and stuff like that arena does get super hype, and they, it's a hostile environment to go into.
And
so
they've they're saving it. They don't want to use it early in rounds 1 and 2, but they've hardly used the death lineup. I've almost watched more of the Warriors over the round 1 and 2 than I have the Heat. Just I don't know why, I just have.
Honestly, probably makes sense with the time zone too. They're on later, so for you it'll be early. You might actually be able to.
Yeah, if I get up early, for work, then I'll catch the end of the game. Otherwise, I'm just staying up anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But the death lineup has hardly been used, and I think when either they start to fully put it in to JUICIN, whether it's in the next series against probably the Suns or in this series as they go.
Yeah.
I unless they have a bad shooting night, which obviously that can happen, but with the level of the shooters they have on this team, more often than not, they're going to be fine. And I don't see how you stop that team.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, Steph is Steph, Clay is Clay. Jordan Poole has shown that over the last...
That's the big name that I've heard who's
like,
really kind of developing into a star.
Oh, he's unbelievable. Yeah, I've watched him a lot.
Yeah.
He's also made me a lot of money as well. I openly admit that as well.
Let's go.
And Wiggins, I mean, you got Wiggins too.
Yeah, Wiggins too, like, as you know, the next LeBron. He's not the next LeBron. We know that now, but like, he's found a niche and he's learned how to shoot better too, like being with the Splash Bros.
That's what I'm saying. He's hardly, unlike the beginning of the season when Clay wasn't there, and Jordan Poole hadn't developed to what he was. He's not required to have
a big day all the time.
Yeah, the big day. Yeah, exactly. So like, someone isn't having a big day and they go, okay, well, Wiggins, let's get Wiggins the ball. He can fucking go off. He's very capable of doing that. So
absolutely.
I think, as much as I actually really like the Grizzlies team, I just think the Warriors are just the Warriors Suns is like that's the one I can't call. I have no idea who the fuck's gonna win that. But
absolutely.
That's a conversation for a different day.
For sure, absolutely, you're right about that, and it's interesting with this series too. Like, we're just talking about the Warriors for a second, and talking about Klay Thompson. Like, there's these commercials every time I'm watching a stream, and I see these Klay Thompson commercials where it's like every day is a win, and it shows his rehab process and having multiple knee injuries. And Beans talked about it with the little guy, the big guys getting the knee injuries, but Klay's had a rough go, and I kind of feel like I saw him get injured against the Raptors in the finals, and that kind of sealed it. Like, after that, like they were kind of toast. I think Kevin Durant had the Achilles injury that year too, so really two of your big three were injured that year when the Raptors won. But Klay is please go.
He tore his ACL in the last game.
Yeah.
It was halfway through the last game. So that, like, I wouldn't. If people want to bring that up in the whole Raptors thing,
it was more the Kevin Durant injury that was the big one there.
Yeah, the KD one. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Facts, and that was just like an unfortunate, like honestly, even as a Raptors fan, even being on the cusp of like winning our first championship, where I was obviously thrilled, seeing Klay Thompson go down was not cool. Like, that sucked. That really sucked. I hate watching the injuries. I hate, because I know even just you're losing a year of your prime. You're guaranteed to miss at least a year, and then there's always that risk that you re-injure it. Yeah, exactly.
He recovered from the ACL and then did what KD did.
Yeah.
In I think it was camp or whatever it was, the preseason before, he ruptured his Achilles, which is even worse than tearing your Achilles.
Yeah. And honestly, I was kind of remember thinking, I was like, God damn, and this Warriors training staff, I was like, bro, what is going on there? Like, you got to protect your players a little bit from themselves. I get that guys are gamers. You're in a, big moments. You want to show up for your franchise. You want to earn your paycheck. But at the same time, I'm like, man, you really got to make sure that you're 100%. There's always a risk for re-injury in any sport, but I was just like, man, they got to protect their guys a little bit better, because like it seemed like Warriors players for a couple of years were just dropping like flies with these injuries. But and I was just thinking, like Klay Thompson, everyone talks about Steph Curry. Klay Thompson before the injuries was really on pace to be a really special player, like potentially a top 10 talent. Like he's the second best, 3-point shooter of the generation behind Curry. And man, I swear to God, he scored like 50 points. I saw off like 12 dribbles. I don't know if you guys have seen the YouTube video where literally just spot up shooting, Euro stepping. Like, this guy put up a 50 burger without even dribbling the ball. Like it's special. So hopefully he returns to form. But don't count out this young Grizzlies team too. Like, this Grizzlies team, they've got one of the best futures in the league. I think, like, they're just built for, if they can re-sign all these young emerging talents, I think they'll be set up to be a good team for a long time to come. And do we haven't gotten Beans' take on this series yet, have we? No, Beans, talk to me here. Grizzlies, Warriors, what do you think, man? 1-1. We're at a clean slate.
Well, let's be honest. They should be 2-0 Grizzlies, but we're not even going to get into that. I personally think it'd be 2-0 Grizzlies. As you can tell, I'm favoring the Grizzlies. John Moran, I mean, dude, he's just so entertaining to watch. Don't get me wrong, Curry and them are nice to watch. I like seeing the three-pointers, but, dude, it's just so ridiculous how good the Warriors are. I could see them winning, but I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to be 4-3 Warriors, but I'm rooting for the Grizzlies. Hopefully they win 4-3.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ja can't do it by himself. It takes a little bit. Jackson's got to step it up too.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things where like the Warriors, where they have an all-around team. I mean, they got Draymond, they got Clay, they got Poole, they got all these weapons.
Yeah.
They're just a well-rounded team. That one of the guys can have a bad day and all these other players can go off.
Yeah.
It's like Luka.
Mhm.
He can't do everything. He has to have that extra. LeBron could go off all the time. I mean, in his prime. Now it's a little bit different. There's times where like, for him being his age,
Yeah.
he does it. He does a damn
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm rooting for the Grizzlies. I think they should be up 2-0. We'll see what happens. Like I said, that injury that was I feel like it's gonna make a little difference. But yeah, like I said, going into Oracle Arena,
Yeah.
I mean, and
Not easy.
like Peggy said, I feel like they haven't even put a dangerous lineup together. They have so much talent, dude. They just switch in and out whatever they want to do. I mean, that's how good they are.
And with that amount of depth too, being able to basically have a second unit that's performing as well as your first unit with no drop off, like that's something you can't put a price on. You see a lot of these teams like come playoff time, like they go down to like an 8-man rotation. Like regular season you're playing 11 or 12 guys are seeing the court every night. Playoffs, you kind of tighten up a little bit here, but the Warriors can actually use the majority of players on their bench, which is keeping everybody healthy and with the injury history they've had on that team too. I think that's a good thing, like not having to rely on Klay Thompson to play 38 minutes in a playoff game. So
Exactly.
yeah, it'll be a good series. I do think the Grizzlies are in a good spot, and it's kind of one of those teams where it's the same way that it's like if Luka gets snubbed on an MVP one year, you're like, he's young enough, he's going to win another one. Grizzlies, if they don't advance to the finals this year, it's like, or the Western Conference Finals, it's like, they're young enough, they're going to win another one. So, the Warriors, they're the ones who it's like maybe their window's closing with Steph at least. So
we're tired of seeing them in the finals.
See,
yeah,
It's
we
just like everybody's tired. It's just like everybody is tired of LeBron winning championships. Everybody's tired of the Warriors. The Warriors went back to back. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Brady. Everybody hates Tom Brady. Why? Because he kept going to finals. It's cool, but it's like I like seeing different teams.
Yeah.
It makes it better.
A little bit of parity to the league. It's got to be good for the
talent,
league.
different stuff. You know what I'm saying?
That's the exact reason why I like the Warriors to win it this time, because the team is so different how it was. Steph's ankles are going through what they went through in 2011. You've seen it over the last 2 years. Clay has come back from two of the worst injuries you can have in sports.
Yeah.
And the supporting cast around them is completely different.
Yeah.
As much as I hated the Warriors
from
2014 to 2017, more so because of KD and the stupid move he made, I'm so here for the Warriors to win.
I would like to see the Warriors. Like, now it's like, obviously we haven't seen the Warriors play in the finals, it's cool. But what I'm saying is, like, back then it's like, dude, it's so, like, when KD went, it's like, dude, now we're building super.
That was a nasty moment for the NBA. That was nasty.
Like,
Like the KD, it was bad for the OKC. It was bad for KD's reputation. It was bad for everybody. That sucked. But like, it's true. Like, I agree with what Craigy's saying too. It's like I hate seeing dynasties in the NBA. Like, I mean, San Antonio seems like the one dynasty that nobody really hates because they were not a sexy team, but they were just like a fundamental team.
From the
you
team
know?
that
they just had that chemistry.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, like nobody seems to hate on them. Like, oh, look at that dynasty; those guys win 60 games every year.
You
like,
hate on the Spurs, bro.
yeah, you can because they don't have any personalities like that are like crazy. It's like, but
the
with the
only
Warriors,
team like that is like the Pistons.
yeah, yo, Pistons had the attitude though. Like I love that Pistons team. Like
that
that,
Pistons team
Chauncey and
Tayshaun
and Ben Wallace. Yeah. That was like the first kind of team that it's like, you take a whole bunch of guys that not necessarily one of them is a star, but you get a whole bunch of really good players, maybe in their prime, maybe three of them were all-stars.
Duncan was a superstar. He just didn't have the ego of basically anyone else that was a superstar.
He's a superstar who nobody outside of San Antonio wants his jersey. It's a weird thing because like nobody grows up and like, oh bro, I want to get in the paint like Tim Duncan on the when you're playing pickup ball.
Yeah.
I want to hit that off the backboard like for 15 feet. It's like it's not a sexy style of play, but it was effective for a lot of years. Let's move on to MJS here. MJS has been sitting there waiting patiently. MJS, what do you think about this Grizzlies Warriors series? 1-1 right now. Who you got?
Oh, well, this is a tough one for me because I'm a Grizzlies fan. But I don't see us winning this series as much as I hate to say it. But Ja Morant is a great talent. The Warriors are stopping him as much as they can, even though they just let him score 47 points. But
Yeah.
Curry and Clay and Andrew Wiggins, all the other bench pieces that they have are going to be too much for the Grizzlies to handle going into going in further in the series. So I don't see the Grizzlies winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want the Grizzlies to win, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. The old reverse psychology angle here, where you're. Yeah, I know that feeling too. It's a tough matchup, man. It's I do think it will go 7 games. So in a series that goes 7 games, it really is a toss up, that game 7. Although it will be now, if it is a game 7 now, I think the Grizzlies are a higher seed than the Warriors though, right? So if it goes to game 7, it'll be in Memphis. Now I don't think Memphis has the same home court advantage that the Warriors do, but that might play into it. If they can push 7, I mean, having home court advantage, that's got to be.
That's why I said 6, is because I really think if the Warriors really do lose a game at home, they will fight. They will come out fighting like nothing else in game 5.
Yeah,
and then they won't lose game 6. They won't lose close that game. I don't think.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Like home court, especially down the stretch in a closeout game, really does have an effect because, especially if you have a good home court advantage. And don't get me wrong, the Grizzlies fans will be thrilled if they take it to a game 7 at home, and they'll bring it for sure. But you're right. They got to get to that game 7 first.
It's playoffs, so anything can happen, man. Anything can fucking happen.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I don't know if I have a horse in this race here. Like I really don't care who wins this series. I'd be happy for either team for different reasons. I'd be happy for the Grizzlies because it's another future powerhouse young team coming into the league that will be good for a long time. So I like that storyline. I also like the storyline of the Warriors, who were kind of the world beaters years back, coming back for one last hurrah, maybe with Steph Curry. I like that storyline too. Not that Curry's game is dropping off that much, but it'll eventually happen.
Definitely not.
His skill set is one that will age pretty well. Like if you can shoot, that's a skill that Steph Curry could be like a Vince Carter if he wanted to. He could stick around in the league till he's 41 if he wants and shoot threes. I don't think he will. I think Steph will bow out when he's still pretty much at the top of his game. Whereas Vince, maybe you look at Vince's career stats, they're probably ass cheeks, to be honest, because of how long he stuck around, averaging 3 points a game for like the last 10 years of his career. But it's definitely a good series. I think this has the potential to maybe be Celtics, Bucks, or Grizzlies, Warriors. I think are kind of going to be the 2 best series of this round for sure.
Oh yeah,
and I think whoever wins the Grizzlies, Warriors, or whoever wins the Celtics, Bucks, might be my front runners. The Heat just haven't been tested. I mean, the Heat could also make it out of the East, but they just haven't really had that test yet.
I'm like that's my biggest worry.
Yeah, they won't get their test till the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and like in typical Heat fashion, there is always one period of the year where the Heat stink, and for the most part, they saved it until the end of the regular season, and then they got their shit together at the very last minute. But they've now gone against 2 opponents. Mm-hmm. Who, particularly without Embiid, they should be easily. So you can't really tell, particularly when you're going to play, if you're asking me who I'd rather play, I'd rather play a Bucks team who we've beaten in the playoffs before 2 years ago and don't have Middleton than the best defensive team in the league that is thriving since the All-Star break, pretty much.
Yeah, so absolutely. It's true. Sometimes you want to get... It's like for when the Raps won their championship... Beating Philly was our hardest series. Like once Kawhi hit the game 7 buzzer beater, that was it. Like the championship run was pretty much. We did get down 2-0 against the Bucks too. So I mean, I guess, but then we won 4-2. So, you kind of sometimes your biggest moment in the playoffs can come early, and then you just clear sailing the rest of the way. But guys, one last NBA topic here, and then we'll do a little quick, recap of some NFL stuff here. But so I saw Draymond was fined $25,000 for flipping off fans in Memphis, or was it in Memphis that he flipped them off?
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of this. We've seen a lot of this in the NBA playoffs. We saw Kyrie doing it. Bro, is this the new meta?
The little tap on the
yeah, like bro, is this the new meta here? Like, what are your thoughts on this? Is this fair game? Is this like, Like, is this something that's Bush League? Like, Craigie, let's start with you and work our way around the horn here.
I thought it was hilarious, the whole thing
Yeah.
that happened. I mean, the call was shit. It was it was a ridiculous ejection call, but
Yeah.
it's beside the point. I mean, most people have said it. The refereeing has been like not the greatest thing throughout the playoffs so far this year, but it's besides the point.
Yeah.
So, in typical Draymond fashion, to a ridiculous call at the beginning of a game as well. Not even like the third. It wasn't even the second half.
Yeah.
It was. I'm pretty sure it was the first quarter still. He, in typical Draymond fashion, went crazy and just like tried to embrace the crowd and hyped them all up. And all this Draymond antics as he does. He knows that he's gonna get fined. I think it's hilarious, to be honest with you. I have no issue with him doing it. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he said, what do you say? I've been ejected for less. That's what he said, you know. And for him, he's good to get ejected at least 4 or 5 times a year. Like it's just he doesn't care. 25K is a drop in the water for this guy. He's made his bank. You know, even just from NBA championship bonuses that I'm sure each player gets too. That's just like a tenth of what you get for winning championship. Yeah. Exactly. Beans, what about you, man? What do you think about? Do you think the 25K fine is warranted? Do you think it makes him a dick? Do you think it's just a cool thing to do for your fans to get him hyped up?
It's Draymond Green.
You hate him. You hate him. Now we get to hear you.
I hate the dude, but I mean, don't get me wrong. It's funny.
Yeah.
It was a bogus call, in my opinion. I mean, it was a little much. I mean, obviously, penalty, but flagrant, not really. Does he deserve a fine? Yes, obviously, against NBA. But yeah, I mean, like Curry said, it hyped him up. It got him going. 25K to these players is nothing. Draymond even said, he's like, dude, I make 25 mil a year. It's not gonna bother me.
Yeah, facts.
You know. So
I can't even do that math. That's making my head hurt.
I mean, it's these guys get paid so much money, dude. It's like $25 to us.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And he's not even a superstar like making the huge endorsements nationally, but I'm sure he gets a shitload of endorsements in California. You know.
And he's had his golden years. I mean, he's still pretty good. But you know, when they were making that run in 14 and all that, he was one of the top players on their team as well when it came to defense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I said, he deserves a fine. Shouldn't be like that, but hey, I mean, I get it. People get really, especially people like him who are really aggressive when it comes to playing. I get why he did it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it. I get why he did it. I get why the NBA did what they did in fining him. You know, you can't just have it where players are coming out the tunnel in the beginning, just flipping birds the entire stadium every single week. You know, you got to make sure that it becomes something that's a rarity rather than an every.
Like you get a bird, you get a bird.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go, guys. Yeah, like you gotta draw the line somewhere for sure. MJS, what do you think about the Draymond fine? Does it change your opinion of him as a player, or is he just Draymond being Draymond at this point?
Draymond being Draymond, but I do think a 25K is a little bit much for what he did, especially since they know what he does on and off the court. I mean, to be honest, it's just him being him and hyping up the crowd, and whoever he did that to should be happy because they got recognition from an NBA player.
There you go. Yo, I love that. That's the ultimate silver lining. You got recognized by Draymond Green, even though it was like a negative interaction. Like, bro, he looked at you. He made eye contact. You got under his skin.
What about Artest beating up a fan?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that guy should be happy too. Bro, actually,
I'm gonna get my ass beat, man.
Yeah, but look at me, Mom. I'm on TV. Actually, I think they cut the cameras by the time it got that nasty. But I speaking of kind of going off topic here, I love MJ's take. You got recognized. That's actually a W take right there. I don't know if you guys have seen on Netflix the documentary about the Malice at the Palace, like that. That was something like when I was really getting into basketball, like around that same time. That was like an iconic moment. It was like, whoa, this is crazy. The guy who ended up throwing the beer, I think, is the only person who got criminally charged for inciting a riot, essentially. So all the other guys, while their reputations took a hit, they missed out on a potential championship run with a team that looked like they were ready to take that leap to win a championship that year in the Pacers. And it ended up being, bottom line, the dick who threw the beer is the one who started it all. And if you're going to throw a beer at an NBA player, expect to catch these hands. I'm still very apologetic. Man, that was crazy, man. Like, the NBA, sports is crazy. Like, you think about some of the stuff that happens, sports is crazy. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about these podcasts. Like, there's stuff that happens in sports that's just bigger than, just stat checking and the game itself. It's just such an interesting thing, man. Mouse at the Palace. I could do a whole podcast on that alone. I could do I feel like everybody's got opinions on that. But so boys, that wraps up the NBA portion of our podcast here. You guys have done an incredible job covering all these topics, and I really appreciate the insight. But I'd be remiss. There are a couple things that happened in the NFL, the draft being one of them. But a couple pieces of news that I want to get your guys' take on before we wrap things up here. DeAndre Hopkins getting suspended for 6 games. That's a pretty sizable suspension right there. And obviously the NFL has, if you're caught, by the random testing, they have a very set protocol for that now. Craigie, what do you think? Is it fair? Is it surprising that Hopkins is JUICIN? I don't even know what it was that was in his system. I haven't done much research, to be honest. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
It was pro-intolerant drugs. It's all I know. All I've seen, I didn't see a whole lot about it. All I have seen is that his agent came out. He publicly came out and has said, like, and a lot of other people have said that, like, he, out of all the tests that came positive, it makes no sense. And, like, so he keeps banging on about how he's gonna, he wants to, fight against it or whatever. At this point,
he'll probably appeal it. He'll appeal it, right?
Yeah, he wants to appeal it. So, like, at this point, I have no real opinion until 3.5 months' time when the season's about to start, because by that point either he's taking the 6-game suspension or it gets appealed and he wins the appeal. Which, if that's the case, then W, because he fought against what is a pretty suspect drug test system. Like, they literally will just say, oh, by the way, we need you here tomorrow at 9:30. You're doing a drug test. Or he did it, and he needs to serve suspension. It's pretty simple as that to me. Like, 6-game suspension is pretty fair. It's a third of a season, which in the NFL is big. Like, I say it a lot. Like, particularly my friends, and most of them who don't watch the NFL, is like, the thing with the NFL is every game. Like, you can say this about most sports, but particularly in the NFL, unless it's like week 16, 17, maybe 18. Every game matters. Every game matters in the season.
For sure.
Unless you've, like, locked up the number 1 seed by week 16 or whatever the case may be.
6 games for an All-Pro is big. If it does end up being, I could see him appealing and it getting knocked down to 4 or 2. If it's 2, then I could see it being some wiggle room. But
like, the thing is like, if he's done it.
He should serve the 6. I think
he should serve the 6. Like, it's not like, it shouldn't be lower than that, in my opinion. It should be 6. That's where I stand on it. Really, it's like, if he did it, then 6 games is perfect. That's what he should serve. If he didn't do it, then, like, and he's coming out, his agent, and he's brought out a whole fucking thing on Twitter. Is appeal it, and if you genuinely didn't do it, win the appeal.
Absolutely.
Good for that.
Let the scientists sort it out. It's something that's beyond, obviously, my expertise. I have no idea how these tests are done. I do know that the way that they're administered is kind of suspect, like you said. Like, I remember, I think everyone remembers the kind of meme or the tweet that Myles Garrett put out. The 1 week after he goes sleeveless for a game and he gets drug tested the next morning. It's like, these guys all look crazy, ripped and jacked beyond human recognition. Like, you look at a linebacker or a D end in the NFL, you're telling me they're not on something? Like, Danielle Hunter on the Vikings, I look at this guy, he's like 0.5% body fat and 265 pounds. Like, there is crazy genetics. Like,
the perfect clip is, I always forget who it was against. It was I think it was the 97-yard touchdown that Derrick Henry did last year. The longest one. There is one point where he, like, breaks it's like the second tackle he breaks. He goes from, like, 0 to 1,000,000 in, like, half a second. And I, like, show people this clip, and I'm like, this guy is a huge human being who's
Yeah.
moving ridiculously quickly. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's illegal as far as I'm
Facts.
concerned. So but he won't get drug tested.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, that's something where if like someone did that, the next day they get drug tested, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I get the whole point that it has to be random too, because if you say, oh yeah, this team and this position group, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, this position group on this team gets tested on this day, because then guys are cycling off of stuff. And man, like trust me, like we know from the Olympics and the amount of doping stuff that goes on in a thing with international oversight. If people are cheating in the Olympics, people are cheating in every league in professional sports. I mean, you know, there's probably golfers out there pumping roids, you know, like it's you know, it is what it is. It comes with the territory. I don't believe that it's like one of those things, oh yeah, let's let everybody do steroids and then it's an even playing field. I don't think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, that's not the way to go about it. No, definitely not.
Yeah, let's get Beans' opinion on this one about the Hopkins suspension. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't want to talk about PDs because my favorite player is Barry Bonds.
Oh, facts. I know. Giants fan, you probably got some. Hey, do you have any Barry Bonds merch or like stuff in your room right now that maybe at the end of the podcast?
I do not. I could
like a used syringe that he signed or something like that, or
no. So the only thing I have, it's one of my favorite pieces, and I got it for a good price. Is when he broke the record for 73 home runs.
Yeah.
And it has every ticket from each game that he hit a home run. So there's 73 tickets, and then it shows like which pitcher he hit it off of and everything. And it's funny. So the last pitcher that he hit the 73 home run on is actually one of my dad's friends, and he lives in the town that I live in. And so every time I see him, I always give him shit for it. I'm like, hey. He goes, yeah, that's my fame to the MLB. You know, Barry Bonds hit his 73rd home run off me. Yeah. So every time I see him, I make sure I tell him, and he just like wants to give me like a punch. It's funny, but yeah.
That's wild. I would say too, like the Barry Bonds, and I've talked about this on the podcast before too. We've kind of done the whole panel thing on Barry Bonds, but it's kind of cool to hear like a Giants fan's take on it. Somebody who grew up kind of idolizing him. Like 73 home runs is crazy. That's wild, but considering nobody was even pitching to him anyways, it's like literally he probably saw 75 pitches that year.
He broke the record for most walks in an MLB season. Like,
bro, his on base percentage was like 600. It was like this guy was a walk, like it was insane. And like I literally kid you not, he probably might have seen 100 pitches over the middle of the plate and in the entire season, and he took 73 of them for home runs. He was that good. But what are your thoughts on Hopkins here?
Okay, well, yeah. So back to Hopkins.
Yeah.
I mean, after 10 years, you know, I mean, he's dealt with injury a little bit. It's shocking to me. He's a great player, and I'm like kind of like iffy on it just because like they ended up trading for Marquise Brown. They traded their draft pick for him. Yeah. So like I wonder if they kind of knew about it already. Yeah. It's kind of like a thing going on.
Definitely seems like yeah.
6 games, personally, is a lot. So I see the opportunity for an appeal from him. If he didn't do it, obviously, if he did it, I mean, hey, come on, man. You've been in the league already 10 years, you know the consequences. But like you guys were talking about, you know, a lot of these players, I feel like they juice up, and then like when it's ready for, you know, come time for, you know, the season, they kind of just cut it off and
Yeah,
you know,
if there's like a little window where you can get a little bit of juicing done in the summers, you know, like you see how these guys work out in the off season. It's crazy.
Yes, so, they are freaking huge, dude. They don't even like, and I get it. Genetics is definitely a key part. I mean, they have trainers that help them with their meal plans and stuff like that, what to eat. Yeah. People who want to put muscle on, they do it. But I mean, dude, some of these guys are just. I mean, you see DK Metcalf, Aaron Donald. I mean, these dudes are freaking ripped.
There's that picture of DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, and like those guys just like showing off the washboard abs, and these guys are huge. Yeah. These guys would have been tight ends if this was 1950s. Now they're just your regular wideout is just like a tank. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
So that's my thing. I mean, if you did it, you take the 6 games. I mean, they're saying they're investigating it, so we'll see what the outcome is. But
it's kind of like just business as usual, man. People test positive for steroids all the time. It's a violent sport. A lot of money's on the line. You know, you want to put yourself in the best physical position to be difference makers on the field. So I get it. But you come to the territory. You're going to juice. There's always that possibility you're going to get caught. Let's go on to MJS here. MJS, what are your thoughts on the Hopkins suspension? To you, do you think it's steep? Do you think it's fair? Do you think he did it? Do you think he's innocent? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I really didn't pay much attention to it, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
But but I do think that since the Cardinals traded for Marquise Brown, that they're already setting up for 6 games without him.
Yeah,
I mean,
facts.
it's kind of like a win for the Cardinals, but it's a loss for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
And when he does, if he does get 6 games suspension, yeah, I don't see, like, how do I put that?
Like, do you think they can weather the storm of 6? Like, do you think their playoff hopes are going to go away if they have to play 6 games without their best receiver? Or do you think they're going to be able to weather the storm with, like you said, adding Hollywood to the team?
I mean, I don't see him winning many games without him because I hate saying this, but Marquise Brown does not have height on him like DeAndre Hopkins does. He can't go up there and just make catches like he can. So,
Facts. Like
All you can do is beat him with speed.
Exactly, and I think, like you said, like this is an interesting thing where, the Cardinals they're a mix of old and young. Like they've obviously their quarterback is young, so I'd say they're a young team at this point because that's the most important position on the field. Hopkins is not necessarily young; he's in his prime right now. But primes are fickle in the NFL. Like, so you losing 6 games, your prime sucks. As far as like legacy goes and stats goes. But it's interesting because I think the Hollywood Brown move is a good move for them because it does kind of put like a Band-Aid. Obviously Hollywood's not the player that Hopkins is. He's not gonna be able to replace him. But then you look at it, if he does get suspended, let's say like games 4 through 10, then you basically add that an extra receiver into the mix. Now you have both of them on the same team for at least the majority of the season, and then Hollywood could be a dangerous guy in the slot for Kyler Murray. He kind of fill that Tyreek Hill type of role as a guy who can keep plays alive just with his speed. He's not the best route runner. He's not the best guy in catching balls in traffic, but the guy can probably outrun 90% of the players on the field. So I think that trade is a win for them. Although a first-round pick in the NFL is super valuable, so it's not like they didn't give up a lot to get him. We see, very rarely teams willing to part with their first-round pick in the NFL, unless it's for like a generational type talent. But moving on, guys, the last thing I want to talk about on the podcast today, on the NFL tip here, is the NFL draft. And I was telling you guys in Discord earlier, we could approach this from a variety of ways. If you want to talk about what team you think won the draft, what team you think absolutely had a dog water draft, or you could just approach it from like, what team do you root for in the NFL and how do you think they address the needs of your specific team that you cheer for? And let's start things off with Craigie here because I kind of already know a little bit of his take here from earlier. Craigie, what are your thoughts on the draft?
I'll be completely honest. I'll say it up front. I actually paid zero attention to anything except the Packers draft.
Yeah,
I paid zero attention to anything except the Packers draft.
Same with me and the Vikes, 100%. Yeah.
But when it comes to the Packers drafting, I'm not going to say it was the best draft out of everyone, but I'm hella happy with it. This is, in the 8 years I've been watching the NFL and been a Packers fan, this is, as a collective, probably the best draft that I've ever seen us have.
And what kind of positions did they address? I know their first round pick, who they got, but yeah, run us through like some of the guys you like.
The first two picks were the pick that we got from the Raiders was a linebacker, and then the actual first overall pick that we had was a D tackle, which I know everyone and I felt it originally, and then that's when I actually looked up at who had been drafted in the first round. We're like, yo, we haven't got why haven't we got wide receiver? Wide receiver. All the wide receivers that were projected to go fairly either mid or in the first round at all were all taken way before the Packers drafted. I think the last one went at like 18 or 19, and our pick was at 22. So at that point, I went, okay, I have zero issue with us not taking a wide receiver here.
Yeah. You gotta go best player available still. Like, best player available is ideal, and if it matches a position of need, then that's the perfect storm. When the best player is the guy you need for your team. Yeah.
And in hindsight, after trading up with your Vikings and taking Christian Watson in the second round, I had zero complaints. The D tackle pick was, I like the D tackle pick more than I like the linebacker pick.
Yeah.
But I also really like the linebacker pick because it's now putting someone with Devontae Campbell, and I'm glad we brought him back. He had an unreal season last year.
Yeah.
So
and losing Zadarius Smith in free agency too, you got a hole at linebacker, so fill one of your biggest needs. Yeah.
And that's what the Devontae Wyatt pick was the thing I liked the most, because even though it definitely was better last year, the run D is still the worst part about the Packers defense as a whole.
Yeah.
And he's a run stuffer.
Yeah.
That's all I know. All I know is that he stops the run.
Yeah.
That's his job. So I'm hella happy with that. And then the third and fourth round, we got another wide receiver and more, and drafted a couple offensive, one guard and one tackle.
Yeah.
And the Packers, I don't know what it is, but the one position I can guarantee you the Packers will draft well in is offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to show,
offensive line is always great.
Yeah.
It's always great.
Which the negative that comes with that too is like you guys really got freaking poached in free agency, man. Like a lot of your guys getting poached, and that just shows you guys know how to develop players. Unfortunately, like you can't always sign all the good players that you develop. They go elsewhere in their prime. But yeah, you guys do just churn out. Yeah, I'm so freaking jealous too, because like as a Vikings fan, we have not had a good offensive line since we had like Steve Hutchinson, Matt Burke, guys who are Hall of Famers. They've been retired for 15 years. I literally cannot name like a really, really, really good Vikings offensive lineman. I can name maybe once every 5 years we get a guy who's okay, but that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Like you guys have a good scouting department for the O-line for sure.
I have zero complaints about the draft. The only thing I would have liked is, like, if someone was like, you can pick what, you can change one of the picks.
Yeah.
Is within the first 3 rounds, keeping the wide receiver pick and the D-line pick is getting a corner. I just, like, Rasul Douglas had a great year last year, but he's kind of like he also gives me the same kind of vibe that people talk about Trevon Diggs, is that, like, they're going to make the play. Yeah. And when they make the play very well, like, and the stats will show it. Yeah. But they do that so much, they can also get caught out quite a lot
by taking unnecessary risks. Like you might want to have a guy with less picks, but less, really locking his guy down. Yeah,
that's it. And that so there's not. I'm not looking to replace Russell Douglas. I despise Kevin King. I will always despise Kevin King, and he needs to get replaced. And we need a new corner because I'm hoping, and the other reason why is because we still haven't extended Jair, and I'm hoping we will. We have the season to do it, but you never know. Particularly with the Packers, they're good at fucking up this sort of stuff. So I'm just like, whether Jair resigns or not, another corner just to like. If we had another corner, drafted a corner high up, I would like have them for the first time ever be like, holy crap, we have a great defense.
Yeah. You got it's not like Madden where you just got to have 3 good corners and you can run your 3-3-5 wide. There's so many sub packages. You really have to have like 5 usable corners. I'm not saying there's probably no team in the league that has 5 good corners. Like they're one of the most valuable positions.
I know you mean.
But like, you can never have too many good cornerbacks. And like you said, like you're always at risk of one of your guys signing elsewhere or dealing with an injury that's going to put them out for an entire season. So that would definitely be. We all have those positions we wish our team would have drafted for sure. And Beans, what about you, man? So Beans, are you a Rams fan first and foremost, or are you're a Chiefs fan? You're a Chiefs fan. Show us the Chiefs gear.
Look at this. Come on, man.
Is that a Jackson Mahomes bobblehead?
Dude,
that's a Jackson Mahomes bobblehead.
Jesus Christ! Hey, you know what? Just for that, I'm gonna burn this hat I got. I like this hat.
No, don't do it. Oh, the OG. Hey, that's the Paul Molitor days. I love those hats. But yeah, you're a Chiefs fan. You could either take this like, who do you think won the draft, who lost it, or how do you think your Chiefs did?
Well, we definitely got to steal with Sky Moore. I think that was the best of the draft. Sky Moore taking him 2nd round, 54th pick. I think it was beautiful. Definitely someone who could most likely replace Tyreek Hill. I know that sounds like a lot, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Tyreek Hill, his hands are not the best. He's a pretty good route runner and he's fast. Yeah. He's really agile, and that's where he beats a lot of people. Yeah. I feel like McCole Hardman that's his role now. I feel like he's taking over I mean, obviously you didn't see a lot of him because Tyreek Hill was a superstar, but now he's got to step up and fill that place.
And he's young
for
enough
Tyreek
that he
Hill.
can, he
Yeah,
can
and he's
develop.
young enough. He's fast.
Yeah.
He's just as quick as Tyreek Hill, maybe a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Sky Moore is that next dude. If Nicole Hardman's not going to do it, I think Sky Moore is going to be that next guy. Like I said, we still have a lot of talent. We took Trent McDuffie, our first pick in the 21st, which was a corner. We need that, especially with Tyrann Mathieu going to the Saints.
Yeah.
Saints look good. That was a good pick for them, picking him up out of free agency. Then we also got that guy. He's a guy from Purdue, George something, but I think he's going to be a monster. That's another thing we need help. I mean, Chris Jones can't do it by himself. I mean, with him, Frank Clark, Chris Jones getting hurt.
Yeah.
I think that's
Frank
a huge
Clark's got to be
pickup
getting
for us.
pretty old too. Frank Clark's been in the league for a long time as well.
So we just signed his brother to a rookie mini camp.
Oh,
so
dang.
we'll see how good his brother is. Big old chubby guy, so that's what
good NFL pedigree. I mean, you see it in baseball. Baseball guys who have dads. I mean, the Jays are full of guys whose dads are MLB players, and who would have thought if you have a family member who's in the NFL, you're going to be good too. It seems to be for all sports, really.
100%. And there was one guy that kind of took me by surprise. It was Darian Kennard from Kentucky. And he's an offensive lineman. I don't really see him playing much as a rookie, just because I feel like our line's good. But we'll see. I mean, I think Mahomes has got a good line.
Yeah.
But I mean, just filling in for young injuries and stuff, I feel like he's going to be the one to step it up. But like I said, Sky Moore, do not sleep on this guy, guys. I mean, I feel like he was a steal of the draft. And I think the Chiefs are going to be all right, especially with that division, man. A lot of those teams picked up a lot of good players, and everybody's like, well, the Chiefs didn't do anything. They got rid of one of their best players. You got Russell Wilson now with the Broncos. You got Devontae Adams, one of the Raiders. You have Khalil Mack, the Chargers.
Yeah.
The
Chargers it's bad.
You got Justin Herbert, who's a great quarterback. Derek Carr's a great quarterback. Russell Wilson's a great quarterback. So it's going to be tough. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs lacking in defense, but I mean, our offense definitely shows it. And I think if we don't win the division, it's going to be the Chargers. But I'm rolling with my Chiefs, man, and I have faith in us. So
it's tough, man. It's going to be 6 really tough games against your division opponents. So it might be whoever fares best against the 10 games outside of the 11 games outside of their division who ends up winning it, because I could easily see every single team splitting in that division. It could be tough.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get 2 wild cards in a division team.
Absolutely. It's kind of like what I thought, with the NFC West last year. The AFC West is now looking like that division where, I'm pretty sure all playoff spots run through that division at this point. Facts. Well, no, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the draft. What about my guy MJS? MJS, you're a Panthers fan. Is that correct?
I'm a Panthers fan.
Yeah, man. How did the Panthers do in the draft this year? Like, any positions of need addressed? Any superstars in the mix for you guys?
Well, I would have liked if we drafted a quarterback higher than we did, but other than that, I think we did snag a very, very good corner. Was the fastest in the combine in the 6th round, but from Baylor. I think that we patched up a lot of empty spots like that corner. We needed one because we let Stephon Gilmore go. And I don't know why we did that, but
might be age or projected salary. Like he's getting up there in years, man. He's been around, but that's like replacing an old position group with a young one. I think is always a W. What else do you like about the draft for you guys?
I think that the Jets and the Lions are going to surprise us this year with who they drafted. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Absolutely.
I don't know how I feel about the Lions.
The Lions got the local guy, right? Like the 2nd overall pick was a guy from Michigan, right? So
Hutchinson.
Have you seen the picture though of Hutchinson with the have you seen the picture of his face, man? He looks like he's just going to freaking death row. Like he's like, fuck my life. Why did I get drafted by the Lions? Yeah. We're not going to win game. But that's the thing. Like 1st round picks are super valuable. Both those teams had a bunch of them. I do agree with what you're saying, MJS, about the Jets really stockpiling. I think the Jets actually played this really well. They actually drafted players who were the best player available and also at a position of need. And that's when you have they have 3 first-round picks. I mean, you can afford to do that. Yeah. You take whatever the best player is at that slot, that also jives with your position of need. So I'm looking at the Jets now. It's like they've got a receiving core. They've got a young halfback that they picked up too. They've drafted. They addressed O-line last year. With Becton, like they're really gearing up to build things. The only thing as is true with every NFL franchise, you're only going to go as far as your franchise quarterback goes. So the only real thing that I wonder about is Zach Wilson going to take a step and be that guy? Because we have a well-known troll in the community, B. Johns. He was telling me that Sam Darnold was the guy. He was not the guy. Sam Darnold is ass cheeks. Is Zach Wilson going to be another Sam Darnold, or is he going to be a Justin Herbert type? That's what I want to see.
The thing with Zach Wilson is he's very athletic.
Yeah.
And with Sam Darnold, he was kind of athletic, but with Zach, he's a little more. I think he's more agile. I think. Because he had Corey Davis, but he just doesn't have a line and he's young. So it kills a lot of these younger quarterbacks when they don't have a line, and they got to scramble all the time. It's
look
hard
at the Bengals investing to protect Joe Burrow.
Exactly.
It's the best thing you can do.
And don't get me wrong, it's nice to be a scrambling quarterback and stuff like that. But if you could be a pocket quarterback, look at all these great quarterbacks that are pocket QBs.
Yeah.
Big Ben stayed in the league for so long. Tom Brady does it. You can only scramble for so long. That's why Lamar. I get worried about him. He's a great quarterback, but he can only run so much before his time's going to come where he's going to get injured. Or
we saw RG3. We saw it happen to him. RG3 looked great the first year or two in the league, and then it caught up with him.
And then your career's over, and it sucks.
Even Vic, when he went to the Eagles, he became more of a pocket passer who could extend the play, but you didn't see Vic going for 1,000 rushing yards with the Eagles. He evolved and protected himself as he started to age because you can only play that balls to the wall style for so long. But I'll chime in here with my picks, my thoughts on the Vikings draft, and I will only touch on the first few rounds. We have a new general manager. We got rid of Rick Spielman. We got rid of our head coach. We brought in the guy from the Browns organization. I liked a lot of what I saw about the direction of our organization. From what I saw in the pre-draft, I saw this metric. It was like a laminated sheet that they have up in the offices at the Vikings headquarters, and it shows you their philosophy on everything, as far as player acquisition, assessing talent. I was like, man, this is really progressive. This is these guys are doing a deep dive into modern, ways to build a team. And then, I was looking on the Vikings Reddit forums, and guys are like, bro, this draft looks exactly like a Rick Spielman draft. We trade down 1,000,000 times, which is what Rick Spielman always liked to do. He always likes to have 11 picks in a draft. 3 of those guys are not even going to make it out of camp, so I never understood that. I was like, bro, I understand trading down to get second round or third round picks, but 7th round picks, these guys aren't even going to make the squad. Let's get higher quality of players in the higher rounds that are actually going to have a chance at sticking around in the league for more than 1 year. But that being said, we traded in the division. We traded with the Lions. We traded with the Packers, allowed them to get guys that they coveted. So a lot of people in the Vikings community hate that too. They're like, well, now we got to play these guys twice a year for the next 10 years, and we just gave them difference makers. So I get that idea too. Now, that being said, we ended up snagging the last pick in the first round, Lewis Sign or Scene or however the hell you say his name. I haven't even, listened to it yet, but he looks like, I'm looking at his tape. He looks like a physical difference maker at safety who can plug in at starter right away and potentially take over for Harrison Smith, who's getting older, and might even be cut due to salary reasons in the next couple of years. We got Andrew Booth, a cornerback, which is we've gone through tons of cornerbacks trying to find the next young guy, and Booth looks like he's legit. I think he's, could be a difference maker for this defense as early as year one. We addressed offensive line by picking this guy Ingram. Now, I like that we went offensive line. Apparently, this guy Ingram, people are like, this guy would have been sitting there in the 6th round, so why draft him in the 3rd? I don't know. And we did pick up a coverage style linebacker, which I think is good because we're switching finally from a 4-3 to a 3-4. So we needed more coverage linebackers. We did pick up Jordan Hicks too in free agency. We got Kendricks. So we have a whole bunch of these new style of linebackers, and then we have obviously Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, who will be those edge rushers for us. So I'm excited, man. I think the Vikings need a change. I liked Zimmer at first when he came to the franchise. But after 7 years at it, and 3 or 4 years of sustainably getting worse, I think it was time to move on. So I'm happy as a Vikings fan with the draft. I'm happy just to have a younger team because that Zimmer core that he drafted is starting to get old now. That great defense it's sad to see, man. The NFL years go by so quick. Players that are like, oh man, this is a great young defense. 4 years later, they're an old defense in NFL years. So, hopefully you guys all feel good about how your teams did in the draft. I think now the hardest part is as NFL fans going to be waiting, till August to see some preseason football. But boys, we've been going at it for like an hour and 36 minutes. I apologize for going over the intended time slot, but you guys are all legends. Craigy, Beans, and MJS, thank you so much, man, for giving your takes on all these issues. I'd love to have you guys back on again, man. Hopefully we can, whether it's an NFL one or whether it's a baseball one. I'll definitely be hitting you guys up. I would love to have you on anytime.